Can you hear my voice?
Ya, doktor.
Yes,
Okay.
Dok.
Can you see the slides? Nampak slide tak?
Macam kabur sikit.
Oh, sikit. Alamak. Tapi masih boleh baca ke?
Tak sangat.
Ha? Sangat? Kabur sangat? Saya nampak jelas je ni. Yang saya, pointer saya nampak tak ni?
Okey, dah nampak dah.
Nampak? So, TEST test. Okay. Right. So, we continue our lesson. Still about the chapter 1. I think this will be the final session for chapter 1. And later, I might need to record our session on Friday. Most probably Friday. Mungkin raya. Ataupun kalau tak raya, saya kena mungkin you kena kemas rumah dan sebagainya kan. Sorry masih pelat lagi lidah saya masih pelat lagi sebab kena rasa kat depan ni. Bukan saya makan gula-gula, bukan. Okay. So most probably I will record the session for this Friday. Now, if we look at the Davison-Germer experiment, okay, as shown in our slide. So it's a double slit experiment. Same thing that I have mentioned last week, I think. This is the first experimental proof of matter waves that come from Davison-Germer in 1927. So look at the diagram. Oh, okay. Well, they fired a beam of electrons at a nickel crystal. And they measured the intensity of scattered electron in different angles. So they have these nickel crystals. They fired electron one by one, and the electrons being scattered all over the place. And they measured the scattered electron at different angles from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so on and so forth. So now, if electrons are particle, they will scatter like billiard ball. And if this happens, the intensity of our scattered electrons would vary smoothly with angles. Now, if electrons are waves with wavelength lambda equals to h over p, h is Planck constant, p is momentum, they should undergo bright diffraction. The same phenomenon that makes X-rays diffract from crystal plates. Now, as a result, they saw sharp peaks at specific angles. At certain angles, they could see sharp peaks, exactly matching the Bragg's law. So what is Bragg's law? You have n lambda equals to 2d sine theta, where n is the order of diffraction, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And d is the spacing between crystal planes. Atoms are arranged in planes, and in real materials, the plane is not one, maybe 2, 3, 4,000 millions of planes. So the spacing between these atomic planes is d. So how about lambda? Lambda is the angle of incidence, the incoming electron beam angle. The incoming electron beam before it hits the atomic spacing. This is the angle. Also, it could be the angle of reflected electron beam. Now look at the calculations I put in the box over here. Still. Yeah. So for a 54 electron volt electrons, this is the energy of an electron beam. If our electron beam has the energy of 54 eV, the predicted lambda from de Broglie is lambda equals to 1.227 divided by square root of 54. So if you hit your calculator correctly, you can get 0.167 nanometer. So this is the de Broglie wavelength, okay, lambda. So look at the nickel crystals. We are still discussing about the Davison-Germer experiment, where they fired electron beam onto nickel crystal. So different material, they will have different value of D. So for nickel crystal, its D is 0.091 nanometer. And the measured diffraction angle, okay, so we have the interplanar spacing and the atomic spacing. The atomic spacing is about 0.091 nanometer. And the wavelength of electron beam is 0.167. It is bigger than the interplanar spacing. The wavelength is bigger than the interplanar spacing. Just like when this pen trying to hit these so many sheets of this book. So what will happen? Will it slip through, or will it be diffracted, or will it be scattered? So using the Bragg's law, n lambda equals to 2d sine theta. Lambda we have calculated. Okay. Try to insert the value first. Okay, 2d sine theta. D is 0.091. Okay, 2d. Sine theta is sine 50. 50 is given. The diffraction angle. You will get 0.167. What does it mean? What does it mean? So this is perfect agreement. What do I mean? The wavelength calculated from the de Broglie formula, lambda sama dengan 1.227 divided by square root of 54, you got 0.167. Yeah? If you follow the Bragg's law and n lambda equals to 2d sine theta, plug in all the measured parameter, you will get the same wavelength as well. So it's a complete agreement between the de Broglie wavelength formula and the Bragg's law formula. So the wavelength calculated from the de Broglie formula exactly matches the wavelength deduced from the diffraction from the Bragg's law. So this experiment actually is no coincidence. It is an accident. This experiment is an accident. Davison and Germer actually was studying electron scattering when their nickel target accidentally crystallized. The electron hit the crystal, the nickel, the crystal suddenly crystallized, and the electron is scattered. So the scattered electron, they noticed, Davison and Germer, they noticed scattered, a weird pattern of the scattered electrons. And they figured out it was diffraction. And realized they proven the de Broglie hypothesis. Somehow, the de Broglie hypothesis was supported by their new findings from the Bragg's law. And from this accidental experiment, finally, both of them, they got this Nobel Prize in 1937. Davison and Germer, they received Nobel Prize in 1937, 10 years after they accidentally encountered this experiment. So for material scientists like us, this experiment is the foundation of electron diffraction techniques. Some might use lead, some might use the reed. LED is low energy electron diffraction. Reed is refraction high energy electron diffraction. Both of them are used to determine crystal structures and monitor thin film growth. But as for me, I use primarily SAED, selected area electron diffraction. It comes with the high resolution transmission electron microscope. We want to observe the crystallinity level of any materials that I have synthesized, or the arrangement of atoms in any crystal planes. So I'm using the SAED, SAED. We don't have lead and read. We don't use them much in Malaysia for lead and read. Usually we will use the SAED. Right? Selective area electron diffraction. Why? Because we want to know crystal properties. We want to know crystal properties. So for those who are playing with materials, whether it is crystals or amorphous, this setup, the electron diffraction setup, is very important to you. So you should be able to brush up your skills in electron diffraction. Okay, so the origin of the experiment comes from the Davison-Germer experiment, which they found accidentally. Look at the next slide. Slow lah slide saya ni. What happened? Let me reset it first. Okay. We look at the double slit simulation. Okay. All my slides, I will include simulation. Yang ni saya dah update simulation ni. Nanti kalau saya ada update simulation yang baru, you don't need to use other links. You just need to use the original link that I have sent to you. Last week I showed you the generic double slit result. Today we will focus specifically on electrons, which what you will deal with in materials. In materials, electron is our currency. Electron, proton, neutron, but the main currency is electron. Our focus is on the electron. Okay? Our economy bullet is electron. So the experimental setup, we must have the source of electron. Bukan sauce Nandos, bukan sauce tomato, bukan sauce chili. The source. Saya tak boleh sebut R sebab lidah saya tak boleh bergetar. Nak rasa besar lah rasa tapi. The source is electron gun emitting electrons one at a time. Electron gun, dia bukan macam senapang, tak. No. The name is just electron gun because it is emitting electrons one at a time. You can set the timing, the number of electrons that comes out from the gun at any time. And we have double slits, two narrow openings, very narrow. Typically in nanometer or micrometer, which the slit is separated by distance D juga yang ni. So this experiment, the D is the separation between these two openings in nano or in micrometer usually. And we have detection screen on the side, whether right or left or up or top or bottom or ground. And the screen is made out of phosphorescent screen, phosphorescence, or detected ray showing where electrons arrive. Because we want to detect the arrival of the electrons. So we must use the phosphorescent screen such that it will glow when the electron hits them. So example, each electron has energy, 100 electron volt. And if we use the de Broglie formula, our lambda is 0.12 nanometer. Or if you use E equals to Hc over lambda, de Broglie also using that formula as well. You get lambda is 0.12 nanometer. Now look at the right panel, right inside panel. We have the detection screen over there. Let us try to play around with this simulation. Right. Let's see by default. If our electron wavelength, if the wavelength of the incoming electron is 0.5 nanometer, with the slit separation, slit separation ni, jarak antara slit ni dah 500 nanometer, and the screen distance from the slit is about 1 meter. Let's fire the electron, pick the fire. So you will see this kind of pattern. So this is the pattern that you should be able to observe on the screen. The simulation is very fast. Saya boleh perlahankan lagi. Let's try to reset. Ini yang apa berlaku lah. Boring lah perlahan. Kita laju lah. Mana ada masa akhir zaman kena laju. Itu dia. So the diffraction pattern that you should be able to observe on the screen is like that. So what calculation can we do? We can do the interference prediction, where delta y over here is the fringe spacing, the spacing between the fringes, physical spacing that you can measure. Okay, that's delta y. Lambda is the lambda of the de Broglie wavelength, which you have over here, 0.5 meter. What is L? L the screen distance, 1 meter. What is D? D is the slit separation, 500 nanometer. So you can plug in all these parameters inside your calculation, but make sure the units are the same. If you want to use nanometer, all of the units must be nanometer. If you want to use meter, so the nanometer part you have to convert into scientific notation times 10 to the power of -9. So this one, it is 0.5 times 10 to the power of -9 meter. Same goes for this one. Same prefix you have to use. Yang ini nampak senang, nampak macam matematik darjah 3, darjah 2. But you have to bear in mind the units must be consistent all over. Throughout the formula. Better use meter. Convert nanometer into meter. Senang je. Nanometer times 10 to the power of -9. That's very easy. You can play around. You want to try different wavelength. What happens if we increase the wavelength? See, initially, katakanlah 0.2 millimeter. The electron wavelength, the smallest. What does it mean? It means that the electron has very high energy because it has very small wavelength. See what happened to the interference pattern. They are very packed. Because of this packed fringes, our delta y will be very small, that is 0.2 millimeter. If we increase to the maximum, for example, 2 nanometer, the electron wavelength is 2 nanometer, you can see that the fringes is not packed, are not packed. Therefore, our delta y will be very loose, about 4, quite big, 4 millimeter. Screen distance, kita jauhkan screen distance, no problem. We increase the screen distance. What happened? The delta y becomes even bigger. We make the screens even further. From 1 meter becomes 2 meter. You see very big fringes, and you can see clearly the spacing between the fringes. 8 millimeter is very big. 0.8 centimeter. We can see 8 millimeter. So you can play around and try to recalculate using this formula, using this simulation. Or you can even adjust the slit separation. Makin kecil. What will happen? Makin besar. Kita turunkan L. Tak nampak lagi. Turunkan lagi electron wavelength. Barulah nampak. Kan? So it has effect on each simulation. Semuanya, this simulation was built based only on this formula, the interference prediction. So you tak payah pening-pening, you kira-kira you nampak apa hasilnya. Okay, kita harap class 1 kalau ada keluar soalan macam ni, semua jawapan penuh lah. So dah nampak simulation dah ni, you boleh test kira-kira dengan pantas sekali. Dan you boleh nampak what will happen. Sakitnya di daku. Let us see the Bohr principle of complementary. Now, we need to see one of the deepest principles in quantum mechanics. It is known as Bohr principle of complementary. So from the side, you can see that the quantum object is neither a classical particle nor a classical wave. It's not a classical particle, not a classical wave. It cannot be explained solely using the classical physics. Whether this wave or particle cannot be observed or explained using the classical mechanics. There are complementary descriptions. Measurement choice determines which aspect you will observe. Let us see the analogy first. Let's see the analogy. Then we return back to the double slit. Now think of a coin. Coin kan? Ataupun tak ada coin lah. Zaman-zaman QR tak ada coin pula. Okay. Just think of a coin. It has two sides. Heads or tail. Zaman saya dulu, parlimen ke duit? Kita dulu kalau toss coin zaman saya sekolah, pakai duit 50 sen. 50 sen zaman dahulu, belakang tu gambar parlimen. Depan tu no, bunga ke parlimen? Bunga atau parlimen? Tak silap saya. Depan gambar bunga. So we toss the coin. Oh, bunga. Oh, parlimen. So for Mat Saleh, heads or tail lah. Dia panggil tu. Heads or tail. Yang bahagian nombor tu, dia panggil heads. Yang belakang yang gambar Dajjal ke Freemason ke tu dia panggil tail. Mat Saleh kan. So when you look at the coin, flat on the table, you only could see one side only. Let's say heads, okay. The tail side still exists, but you cannot see. So it's complementary. You know both of them exist, the head and tails, but you only can see only one. You cannot see both simultaneously from your side. Kalau boleh nampak, saya tak tahulah, mungkin you are gifted kan. So similarly, this concept, quantum objects have complementary properties. The wave nature and the particle nature. The head and the tail. So your measurement determines which phase or which aspect will become real. Macam mana tu sir? Hold on. So an example, the path formation and interference. The interference, the fringes or the path information, we have the D, we have the L. So in double slit experiment, we can choose to measure. Option A, we have option A, option B. Let us see option A first. Maybe we want option A, we want to measure which slit did the electron go through. We have two slits, but which slit did the electron go through? So we place detector at each slit. We place two detectors, one detector at each slit, and we measure the result. And from the result, we will know which electron goes through one specific slit. And from the screen result, we could see two bands, particle behavior. We have two bands and no interference pattern. Or option B, we don't measure which slit. Okay. No detectors at slits. Measurement results, we cannot tell which path. Yang dulu tadi, option A, we put usually in Davison Germer, we have two slits, only one detector. Kan? So now, if we put two detectors on one detector on each slit, we can see the interference pattern. We cannot see that side as well. Option B, we don't put the electron gun at all. Can we see something? No, we can't see something. It's clear interference because interference fringes all are black. Cannot see anything. So there is a quantitative trade-off. One, high path distinguishability. We know which slit, and low interference visibility. Number two, low path distinguishability. We don't know which slit. Very high interference visibility until we can't see anything, dark. No bright and dark fringes. So you can have one or the other, but not both. So this is the concept of complementary. We cannot have both. Can have either one. We can choose which technique we want to use and which side you want to observe. This is not a technical limitation of our equipment. It's fundamental to nature. Knowing which path and observing interference are mutually exclusive. Path and interference. Maybe you don't quite catch what I'm saying right now because you haven't been exposed to the electron beams, such as the transmission electron microscope. Maybe you just heard the name a few days back. The scanning electron microscopes, the neutron scattering, electron scattering machines. Every year, I apply for a grant to travel to the UK or to the GRAS, to the Hungary, only to get a time slot for me to do experiment on the electron diffraction. But every year, I will be turned down by the committee. I don't know what happened. Maybe because of this is a technical university, so they want to see something that is tangible. They could see, they could feel, they could touch. But sorry to say, we cannot touch electron. Yes, we could touch, but it's very harmful. The electron beam is very harmful. If you don't have any other purpose in your life, so you could end your life by entering the electron beam chamber. But that's not the thing. Electron beam, you could imagine just like when Tony Stark tried to make his new arc reactor, when he tried to make a new element, and he need to fire the electron beam exactly onto the existing element, and it becomes new element. But I don't know whether the experiment is legit or not, but somehow the electron beam looks like that. But do not trust the Hollywood 100%. It's just an artist representation. It's not scientist representation, artist representation. Ada pula kalau main laser tu boleh pula apa? Pantul guna cermin, where got road, mana ada jalan, mana boleh macam tu kan. So lightsaber pun boleh cut each other, apa boleh clash to each other. Lightsaber light. Macam mana? It's not physical matter kan. Dia akan tembuslah sama lain lightsaber dekat apa tu Star Wars kan. Tengok boleh, happy boleh, percaya 100% jangan Hollywood. Right? Anyway, the equation on your right hand side is not really important. Ini cuma penambahan saja. What I want to say is that in the quantum world, when we are trying to observe something that is very, very small, atom, proton, electron, atomic spacing crystals, it depends on our instrument. Certain instrument, they only could see one properties of the material. So how about the other properties? For example, thermal, you have to use the other instrument. We cannot have one specific instrument we can use for everything. No, there's no such thing. Tak ada. Kalau ada, senanglah. Saya buat satu je instrumen. Semua dengan instrumen ni, semua benda saya boleh buat. Boleh tengok tu, boleh tengok ni, boleh tengok ni. Kan? Contoh, you ada television. You ada TV. Television television. You boleh basuh kain pakai television ke? Tak ada. Kan? Tak ada. Kita boleh tengok, kita boleh dengar sound. Kadang-kadang yang canggih sikit, kita boleh main games. Kan? Atau kita boleh sambung dia dengan kita punya PS, kita main dengan PS. That's it. Kalau kita sambung dengan mesin basuh pun, what is the purpose? We want to see the baju ke? The baju spinning dalam mesin basuh, kita tengok TV. What for? If that is your entertainment, so please go ahead. It's not mine. Tak ada. Contoh, kereta. The function of a car or transport is to bring you from point A to point B. Suddenly you want to pay zakat using your car. Can ke? You open the window, then I want to pay zakat. Do you think the car could respond to your request? No. So to pay zakat, you could use MEE and guna QR and all that. Not car. So the GIS is to observe. Actually, in all system of quantum system, the subatomic particles, we need specific. specific instrument. There's no such thing. One instrument can give you all the data that you want. And we need to choose. That's why we have SIDE, we have READ, we have LEAD, we have EDX, we have EDS, we have XPS. All of them, they are using electron as their source, but the method is specifically to observe certain properties of materials only. So let us see probability waves and the Bond rule. Yes, Bond is I can remember. Bond is the tok guru ke murid. So it has relation with Oppenheimer. Yes, the same Oppenheimer in the Hollywood movie. That Oppenheimer. Yeah. Saya tak tahu kenapa tak ada orang nak buat cerita pasal Bond, because his contribution is quite extensive juga. People make buat cerita Oppenheimer. Tapi satu lah, one thing that is very dangerous with the Hollywood lah, they put everything in the movie. Oppenheimer sounds like very scientific, so scientists very happy to watch Oppenheimer. But when you tell your kids, okay kids, this is Oppenheimer, the things that I made, that I'm using in my laboratory for my scientific career, but suddenly after 30 minutes, they show the sexual part. What for? Oh, Hollywood, come on. This is scientific. This should be a scientific documentary. No need to put the sexual part. Hari Raya 4-5 tahun yang lepas, saya buka, no. Bukan 4-5 tahun yang lepas, berapa tahun ni lah. Yalah, saya tayangkan Oppenheimer lah dekat Netflix kan. Saya buka Netflix. Waktu Hari Raya, I was naive, you know, Oppenheimer, scientist, but I forgot that is Hollywood. Then the whole family see Oppenheimer is doing, you know, bercucuk tanam during Hari Raya. Aduh, pening saya. Apa saya nak jawab dekat anak-anak dengan cucu-cucu. Ampun. So be careful lah with Hollywood lah. Dangerous lah. Even Teen Titans pun sama. Saya pernah terkena Teen Titans. I do watch Teen Titans cartoons. So it's okay. The cartoon was okay. But when they make a live action series, guna orang betul, they put all the sexual part as well. Oh, very dangerous. So no more Netflix for my kids. Saya tak bagi tengok Netflix. Dangerous lah. They could get matured before time. Very dangerous. But anyway, sedikit rant tadi tu. Now, let us see what Bond has to say. The wave function. Yang you dah belajar minggu lepas, wave function. Ya, saya tunjuk wave function. Kalau you tak ingat, yang macam tongkat syaitan tu, macam trident tu. Macam trident ni, tongkat Aquaman. Yang ni kita panggil psi. So this is the equation for wave function. Wave function of electron. The electron can act as a wave, and this is the function of the wave. Saya harap you dah play around lah with the amplitude kan. Kita kurangkan amplitude jadi apa, what happen to the equation kan. Okay. The movement of electron could be explained using psi. Psi equals to A cos kx minus omega t plus phi. Ini bukan W, ini adalah omega. Ini bukan psi, ini adalah phi. Harap masih ingat kan? Mana tadi? Okay, this one. In quantum mechanics, a particle is described by a wave function. A particle means maybe our electrons can be described as our wave function, the psi. So the psi is generally a complex number. It has a real part and imaginary part. Basic mathematics which you have learned in year 2 to year 1. Basic mathematics, you have learned this before. Ada real, ada imaginary. So the psi itself is not directly observable, even though it is a wave function, but you can see using our naked eye. It's an abstract mathematical amplitude. which we could simulate. Yeah, we could simulate and see the graph. Yes. And psi is not physical wave like sound or water waves. We could see the ripples, or we could hear the sound wave. We cannot see, we cannot hear this psi. Okay, the wave of the electron we cannot see or cannot hear. So now think of the psi as encoding all possible information about the particle state. The behavior of this electron is encoded in the mathematical function of the psi. So look at the bond rule. This is established in 1926. So Max Born, nama penuh dia lah Max Born. Max Born Ben apa? I don't know. Maybe Born Ben Max kot. Dah masalah ni sistem penamaan kan. The physical meaning comes from the square of the amplitude. Apa tu sir? Okay, it's like this. Max Born say the probability density of finding the particle at the position. The movement of electron is like wave. So we cannot observe that is the wave, that is the electron, that is the electron. We cannot do that. We cannot see. But we could predict, oh, at this location, the probability of the electron to exist is this much. Oh, the electron doesn't exist over here because the probability is 0. The electron could be exist over here because the probability is nearly to 1. Nearly exists over there. I could confirm nearly 100% that electron could exist over here. So how do we calculate that probability? That probability or the px, ini p bukan momentum tau, ini p, capital P. The px, the probability is directly proportional to the square of psi. The square of absolute psi. What is psi? Psi is the wave function. Psi equals to some a cos something omega t yang tadi tu. That is the wave function. So if we know the equation that could describe the movement of electron, if we square of its absolute, we could get the probability of that electron could exist at any location. We could calculate the probability. We cannot see the electron, but we could calculate the probability of electron to exist. This is very different from the planetary model that you have learned, the Bohr atomic model kan. Electron akan berpusat-pusat situ, you pun tengok, oh nampak electron pusing. No, not like that. It is just a simplification, extensive simplification by Bohr, by Niels Bohr. It is not actually like that. So day one, electron could exist anywhere in the orbit, and we could predict the probability of the electron to exist at the orbit anytime, any place, anywhere using this equation. Knowing the psi, we know how the electron behaves. Knowing the psi square, the square of absolute psi, we will know the probability of the electron could exist. Like that. So psi, absolute psi square is actually psi times the conjugate of psi. Ini pun basic mathematics that you have learned before. Macam mana? Tak apa. Not today, but definitely maybe next week kita akan tengok macam mana nak buat pengiraan tadi tu. So what does this mean? The wave function square, the psi square gives the probability distribution where the particle will be detected. Okay. The calculations, we leave the calculation later next week. Okay, but one important thing is that in classical physics, to add up, to know the probability of any bulk things to exist at certain places, we just add the probability together. Probability 1, probability 2, probability 3, add them together, we got the total probability. But in quantum, we need to add all those amplitudes involved. Amplitude 1, amplitude 3, amplitude 4, then square the absolute of the all amplitudes. Macam mana nak buat? Lepas dulu. Next week we will discuss about this. Yang ini pun. Okay. The blue curve, look at the blue curve. Tengok blue curve dulu. The blue curve is the sign. The real part, it has positive one, positive yang peak lah. Then it has negative side. Remember wave function, I said it is a complex number. It has the real part and it has the imaginary part. So it has the positive, negative, positive, and negative. This is the sign. So what happens if you want to calculate the probability? The probability is square of absolute sign. So we have square and we have absolute. Definitely the value will be positive. So that is why the graph for probability is the pink one, always positive. And the detected particle, you could say that you have blinking white dots, the scattered white dots. It's an individual particle detection. Okay, it's a sample from the probability distribution from the pink graph. You could see that many of the electrons is located at the highest peak. Then it settles down on both sides. But the probability yang paling tinggi itu banyak elektron bintik-bintik ke situ. Yang tempat-tempat lain makin tak banyak elektron, makin tak banyak, dan akhirnya tak ada elektron langsung dekat kiri dan kanan. Gitu. So this is a representation of how wave function looks like and how the probability was calculated, and if we could see the electron, where the electron will be located. This is the representation, graphical representation. Oh, slow lah. Slow. Oh, sebab ramai access code. Mungkin slow, tak apalah. Asalkan masih boleh tengok. So one of the most important application of de Broglie hypothesis is electron microscopy. You know about this. Techniques that use electron waves to image materials at atomic resolution. And why electrons? It is because resolution problem. Because the light microscope is limited of the resolution because the lambda is very big, thousands of nanometers. We need smaller lambda which could carry very high energy, and we cannot use the normal light, the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. We cannot use them. We need to go to the electron beam as our light to get high resolution. Let's see this one. To resolve atomic structure, let's say the atomic structure has the size of 0.1 nanometer. We need a probe with lambda smaller than 0.1 nanometer. Visible light, the wavelength is from 400 to actually few thousand nanometer. It's too coarse, too big. We want to see something that is small. Then the light is bigger, much bigger than the atomic structure. Definitely we cannot see the atomic structure. From the equation over there, resolution limit, and it's about 0.61 lambda over Na. What is Na? Na is a number. What is Na? Numerical aperture. It's optical property of the lens system. Numerical aperture, bukaan aperture untuk kamera ataupun untuk mikroskop. So from this, we could see that smaller lambda, you will get better resolution. Kalau lambda ni semakin kecil, you will get better resolution. So theoretical goal 600 EV is required to see small structure about 0.1 nanometer, and from this energy, the lambda that we need is 0.05 nanometer. From the E equals to hc over lambda upon de Broglie wavelength, you will get this lambda. And the actual system, you need 100 to 300 kilo electron volt, and resulting about 0.002 nanometer of lambda. Ini dia kita punya teori dan juga actual system. Actual system, it needs much higher of energy. Kat sini 600 electron volt, kita sebenarnya memerlukan kilo electron volt. Paling kecil adalah 100,000 electron volt. Tapi kat sini kita hanya ada 600 electron volt. So maksudnya tak boleh pakai elektron yang biasa-biasa. Kita pakai elektron yang high energy. So why use 300 kilo electron volt? Because magnetic lenses are imperfect. We don't use glass lens, we use magnetic lens for electron microscopy. Sebab kalau light, dia guna glass untuk menumpukan dan mencapaikan. But our light right now is no longer the photon. Our light is electron. Electron only can be focused or diffracted only using magnet. So our magnet is our magnetic lens to focus the electron beam. Anyway, we will look again about this electron microscope later, and I think our lecture has reached its end. The final slide over here, you could just read the information and try to calculate using your own time. And not much explanation about this. Just need to use the de Broglie formula, the Bragg's equation. You will understand everything inside the PowerPoint slide. Nowadays, you could screenshot the slide and paste it in ChatGPT, and the ChatGPT will re-explain to you depending on your mood. If you want to say, hey, ChatGPT, please teach me solid state physics specifically on this slide, assume that I am a kindergarten student. So the ChatGPT will explain to you, assuming you are a kindergarten student. He will use lots of analogy. You can do that. Okay, guys, I think that is all for today. You might have other class as well. So that is all. And we meet again next week on... next week? No. Next week, next week, I don't know lah. I think we can do lecture lah next week. Because Raya... mungkin Jumaat atau Sabtu, then Selasa boleh kot. Yep, Selasa. And this Friday, no, I don't think so. So I will prepare a video lah for you for this Friday, I think. Okay, guys, that is all for today. Thank you for listening. So class dismissed. Oh yeah, one more thing. Dekat chat section tu kan, typekan you punya ID number, SC something. Saya nak ambil attendance. Yes, thank you Abdul Hadi. Yes, thank you Syukri, Faraziha. Siapa lagi ni? Oh, lagunya. Izzat Yaz. Something Nur Sabrina Sab. Having yes. Okay, I did. Okay, masuk supaya dia record dekat saya punya sistem ni. Siapa yang dah masukkan ID boleh dismiss dan boleh bergerak ke kelas yang lain. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome. Daniel dah isi ke? Dah isi ID ke? Daniel, Hazika, Eriani, satu lagi siapa ni? Diana. Waduh.
Ya, Doctor.
Dah isi tu ID.
ID, oh.
ID dekat chat. Eriani, Nur Eriani. Tengah chat rumah ke? Hazika.
Ya, Doktor.
Dah isi ke ID?
Belum.
Isi kat chat. Sebab saya nak keluar lah ni. Nanti kalau you tak sempat isi kan, tak ada record attendance. Daniel Johan, President habis. Daniel Johan. Waduh, enggak menjawab. Tak apalah, saya buat kelas lain. Okay guys, see you.